From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sunny Gray. The Brazilian Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad was greeted by a massive demonstration in Rio de Janeiro on Tuesday night. Haddad continues to call for a debate with his opponent Jair Bolsonaro before Sunday's runoff election. He said that the debate can take place anywhere and in any format, saying democracy will suffer if voters are unable to compare the two candidates' ideas. Haddad has slightly narrowed the gap between himself and Bolsonaro in the most recent Ibope poll published on Tuesday.
I have an announcement to make for you all. Sunday we're going to win the election. Sunday we're going to win the election. I have no doubt about what I'm saying. It's in the air. Since yesterday I have been feeling change in the air. We're beginning to grow and Jair Bolsonaro is beginning to fall. He's going to start trembling. He's going to start trembling. Jair, look at yourself in the mirror. Poor you, poor you. You're nothing more than a phony soldier. You only talk big because you have armed people around you. You in a hand-to-hand fight are nothing. You're nothing, Jair Bolsonaro.
A number of renowned Brazilian artists, including Chico Buarque and Caetano Veloso, also came up to support Haddad at the rally. Buarque and Veloso encouraged the crowd to vote for Haddad, and there were women in the crowd wearing T-shirts with the message, "Struggle like a girl," which attacks the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro's views on women.
I believe that Bolsonaro's side doesn't represent me at all, so I don't even think about why I might vote for him. The only solution for democracy is with Haddad.
With 4 days to go before the runoff, many fear that if Bolsonaro wins, he could install an authoritarian government. The movement called LA Now, or Not Him, says supporting Haddad is the only way to guarantee democracy. Protesters released colorful balloons to defend Brazil's diversity.
We are here not to cry. We are here to win the elections. Haddad for president. It was a big struggle to get it here. It was a big struggle to fight against the military regime. We want democracy. We want the continuity of a democratic form of government. We did not come here to cry. We are here to celebrate. Today is the celebration of democracy. A democracy on the streets. Haddad now.
After a day of rest, the main body of the Honduran migrant caravan is setting off northwards through Mexico on its way to the United States. Others are still in Guatemala or trying to leave Honduras itself. Our correspondent, Gilda Silva-Strucci, brings us the latest from the Honduras-Guatemala border.
We are at the border between Honduras and Guatemala. Here, the government is maintaining an order to keep the borders closed and prohibit the crossing of migrants. But these migrants are attempting to cross rivers just around the area in order to be able to reach Guatemala City, to then continue on to Mexico and thereafter the main migrant caravan. And just within the last hours here, those who want to exit the country have to pay an amount somewhere between $50 and $70 in a group of 5 people, where a coyote, as they are called, the people who assist those trying to move through the mountainous area of the west of the country, are taken to the far side of Guatemala. But there, denouncements are being made regarding mistreatment. Organizations of defenders of human rights have been present to meet the high demand. Nevertheless, the border here remains closed.
We thank Gilda for that report. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico City saw a rally to condemn the U.S. and Mexican government's response to the migrant caravan. The protesters marched from the embassy to Mexico's Foreign Affairs Ministry with a message of solidarity for all those risking it all to flee Honduras. The caravan now comprises more than 7,000 asylum seekers, according to the United Nations. They insist they will try to enter the U.S. despite President Trump's threat to close the U.S.-Mexico border.
The caravan will not cross our southern border illegally under any circumstances. If you seek to come here, go through the normal refugee process. If you apply for refugee status, a permanent solution is possible in Mexico or in a third country. But I can tell you with certainty, we are determined that illegal entry into the United States from this caravan will not be possible.
Babies and toddlers are part of the 1,000-strong U.S.-bound migrant caravan. As they cross Mexico, many Central American migrants carry with them their children and their hopes. Children who can walk remain close to their parents' side during the difficult journey. Dehydration and exhaustion are among the most dangerous risks they face on their way towards a better future.
The children ask when we are going to arrive to the United States because they can't stand it anymore. They don't want to sleep here. They are hungry and tired.
They are exhausted, totally exhausted. We carry those who can't walk. We carry in our arms.
Hurricane Willa has been downgraded to a tropical storm as it moves across Mexico, but it is still bringing heavy rain. 19 municipalities have been declared in a state of extraordinary emergency. Willa earlier weakened to a Category 3 hurricane before it made landfall on the Pacific coast. The authorities are calling on citizens to brace themselves for more heavy rain, winds, and flooding. People living on the western coast of Mexico have taken refuge in schools and shelters to protect themselves. Residents in the city of Escuinapa and Mazatlan sealed off their windows and doors with wooden planks. Families have also been evacuated from tourist areas.
Material objects are just that, objects. Our lives is what they want to be able to return to. If we lack something, I hope God will provide it. Since we left, we go back.
Salvadorian President Salvador Sanchez-Cerén is visiting Cuba to strengthen commercial ties, solidarity programs, and medical cooperation. Sanchez-Cerén says the two nations play a key role within the region. He added that Cuban teachers are very important for the Salvadorian people, as more than 300,000 persons have benefited from the cooperation programs. Sanchez-Cerén met with the island's Vice President of Foreign Affairs, Rogelio Sierra.
El Salvador y Cuba hemos tratado de actuar.
El Salvador and Cuba have tried to act closely in all political scenarios, working towards making Latin America a united region and reinforcing economical ties. For us, immigrating is a human right, and so migrants' rights have to be respected. We're totally against Donald Trump's policy and vision of migration. Salvadorian migrants help the United States economy.
And while on his trip to Cuba, he also tweeted in support of the migrant caravan. He tweeted that migration is a human right and we must respect the rights of migrants. The Salvadorian president also sent his solidarity to the thousands of Hondurans who joined the caravan. The first national fair for entrepreneurial women has been taking place in El Salvador. It's making high-quality products available to the people.
75 entrepreneur women are showcasing and marketing garments, shoes, bags, and wallets, as well as handicrafts, food and drinks. Industriousness and the creative potential of El Salvadoran women becomes apparent in the diversity of products.
This is to show that these women are capable of being entrepreneurs and are building their own businesses. They are even providing jobs to other women.
The first National Entrepreneurial Fair is a showcase for Reina Ferrufino, who makes embroidered clothes along with her mother-in-law. They have a workshop in a small town in the east of the country.
Our business increased and we expanded our workshop. We have a team of almost industrial size. We already have industrial machinery, embroidery machines. We give work to 6 women in the community. Besides, this is a family business. My husband, my son, my daughter, even our grandchildren, they all work here.
This fair also reaches people who make handicrafts, art and drawings. That is the case of the young artist Mallory Vasquez, who was trained at the Female Enterprise School in Ciudad Mujer.
They have given me the opportunity to prepare a business plan and gave me the support I needed to make this artwork, because at first I only did it per order, but they convinced me to have an inventory and exhibit it. That's how this started.
Ciudad Mujer has trained over 67,000 women since its creation in 2011. It has also facilitated access to credit for more than 4,900 entrepreneurs at ideal rates, which allow them to empower themselves and gain economic independence.
Time for a quick break. We have more news in a minute.
With developing events being presented through analysis. Our coverage transcends borders. With renowned journalist Walter Martinez.
Salud amigos, tripulantes de nuestra querida, contaminada y única nave espacial.
Dossier. Weekdays. Only on Telesur.
Y ponga usted las cámaras, señor director.
Argentina's lower house is set to vote on the budget this Wednesday. Thousands demonstrated outside Congress on Tuesday, and more protests are planned for the coming hours. The protesters say that this budget will harm economically vulnerable sectors of society and that problems like the lack of food can no longer be tolerated. They also say the budget is being rushed through to meet the demands of the International Monetary Fund.
The families today, for the most part, no longer have a job, so their situation is that when they are out of work, they have to go to the picnic areas and the dining rooms. So how do we support them today if we don't have food to give them?
What this budget is going to bring is more hunger, a bigger lack of budget for health, for education. We are all claiming this and asking that the government does not turn a deaf ear.
The Argentinian lawmaker Máximo Kirchner, son of the former president Néstor and Cristina Kirchner, have appeared in court in a corruption case. He is being investigated in a case known as the K Notebooks, along with his mother, sister, and several others. It is alleged that they ran a criminal organization involved in money laundering. Both Máximo and his mother deny any wrongdoing. They argue the case is part of a wider trend to try and smear progressive leaders through the courts. Thousands of people in Venezuela have been affected by torrential rain. The capital, Caracas, has seen heavy flooding in recent days as riverbanks burst. Hundreds of people have been evacuated from their homes. The authorities have opened 400 shelters around the country for those in need.
We are looking closely at the Guaire River that crosses the city. We are using special technology to measure its water levels. The Intertropical Convergence Zone has brought torrential rain to parts of the eastern and southern Caribbean. On Monday, more than 90 millimeters of rain fell in Caracas. The National Emergency System is monitoring weather conditions in order to ensure to safeguard people. The impact of global warming is undeniable in this situation.
Urban farmers in Venezuela are sowing seeds of hope and a new agricultural revolution as they harvest produce from more than 40,000 hectares of farmland.
This is how a so-called Mountain Fighters Day begins in Cacique Tuna, right here in the heart of Caracas. A sizable harvest of vegetables and fruits grown on 12 hectares of land will now be distributed for sale to thousands of families.
Good morning, friends. How are you?
What are we going to do today?
Well, we are going to plant paprika, and afterwards we will cut the seeds. What we are doing is offering agriculture classes in schools. This is directly from the producer to the community.
Griberth is one of 18 farmers who lives on this land.
I came to visit my family and I found this beautiful farmland. My family is working here and I am fighting here with them.
Blades, seeds, and their bare hands are the only tools these farmers are using to cultivate the land. Luis wants to keep developing a strong culture of farming the land by helping the community.
Here in Caracas, there are people who work. We want to open an exchange with other farmers so we can all sell high-quality crops that Venezuelans deserve. So we want to bring together all farmers here in Caracas.
This Cacique Tiuna community can be an example to the rest of the country's farming sector. It also promotes farming not only in the countryside but also in the city.
The former Ecuadorian president, Rafael Correa, has spoken about the WikiLeaks co-founder, Julian Assange, and the possibility that he might be handed over to the U.S. government if he leaves the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
It is taken very seriously because there is an agreement between the Ecuadorian government with the American government. We were visited by Vice President Mike Pence several months ago, and they agreed this to turn over Assange, among other things, for instance, to end the Chevron affair and to isolate Venezuela. So it's part of an agreement already set, so they are following this agreement. So it's very serious. They try to humiliate Assange, and they are humiliating themselves. They are humiliating Ecuador, my country, because they are, these rules are really against human rights, and they are trying to isolate Assange and to push him to abandon our embassy.
Teachers in Colombia are protesting to demand more resources for education. They say the government is not honoring an agreement reached between both sides in 2017.
Teachers in Colombia gathered in front of the Education Ministry to demand to the government it fulfills the agreements reached with the teachers in 2017. Demonstrators have denounced that only 20% of the agreement has been fulfilled.
Since 2001, there has been a decrease of resources for our sector. Resources for education have decreased dramatically during these last 15 years.
A student from public universities also joined the protests. They say the current situation affects everyone in the public education system.
This is an historical debt that the government has accumulated. Now it reaches 40 trillions of pesos that the government needs to allocate for primary school all the way to university system.
According to a public decree, the government tried to use royalties to fund education, but authorities cannot use these resources as they don't belong to them.
They want to delegate the responsibility of the administration resources to local governments. What they want is to privatize education.
The Colombian Federation of Education Workers, FECODE, is looking to create a high-level commission to build a project that ensures education resources.
The majority of the agreement has not been fulfilled. This needs to continue around a negotiation table in order to build a project for health, education, public services, basic sanitation, and drinking water.
Teachers want the government to prioritize resources for the education sector and are demanding a state policy regarding this.
Obviously, the government cannot provide resources immediately, but we've presented a proposal to receive funds gradually for the next 10 years.
Teachers are hoping to hold a meeting with the education minister.
The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, has met the Barbadian Prime Minister Mia Mottley for a discussion on CARICOM and other matters. Prime Minister Mottley came to Trinidad to prepare for the special Heads of Government meeting to be held in Port of Spain in December 3rd and 4th. Prime Minister Mottley also met with the Grenadian Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, to discuss that CARICOM summit. And still in news of Trinidad and Tobago, the tributes are still pouring in after the death of the legendary calypsonian Winston Bailey, better known as the Mighty Shadow. Bailey died Tuesday morning at the age of 77. The musician Dr. Roy Cape described the death as a great loss, remembering him as an incredible artist and an even greater human being. The soca artist Dexter Stewart says his music was shaped and inspired by Shadow's unique style. We'll take another short break now. World News is next.
The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Thousands of people have protested in Greece against the proposal of creating new NATO bases. Supporters of the Communist Party of Greece chanted anti-NATO and anti-capitalist slogans as they marched. They are protesting against the creation of 3 new NATO bases. Protesters said bases are used to launch war and spew fire and death against the people. The presidents of Nigeria and Benin have inaugurated a new border crossing. The new border post is intended to facilitate movement of both peoples and goods between the two countries. The land border between Nigeria and Benin is the most frequented in West Africa.
Bringing our border administrations closer together in the same place will help to improve their respective performance and the ease of movement of people and their goods.
We need to measure any success in, real changes for people coming to the border post. So in terms of having shorter transition time, having less extortion, not seeing as much corruption taking place, less harassment.
South African authorities will take action to recover millions of dollars stolen from a local bank. The local government minister has told Parliament that he had instructed lawyers to, quote, launch a lawsuit on this matter to try and recover the money. The fall of the VBS Bank has been one of the most serious graft cases to rock the country in the last year. As a result of the lost money, the bank collapsed.
Not have happened. So the only thing that's important is to make sure that we take action on those who are responsible, and secondly, we must make sure that we pursue the recovery of the money, and in the process is to also make sure that our monitoring is tighter.
Parents and students in Liberia have demonstrated against the closure of a school as a rape scandal came to light. News outlet ProPublica unveiled cases of rape and sexual abuse perpetrated against the young girls by a U.S. charity called More Than Me, by the co-founder of that charity, actually Macintosh Johnson. Now, the parents are afraid that the schools managed by the organization could be closed down. Now, the schools are supposedly aimed at saving girls from a life of sexual exploitation.
If this school be closed down, which one of the school be ready right now to take the children in? Because of the stigma and all they own them. Which one of the school be ready right now to take the children in? There is no other school ready right now. So the masses are just coming over here to say things what they're not supposed to say. So now when the parents decide to come on the street to advocate for our children right and our children education.
Hundreds of people have demonstrated in the Central African Republic's capital, Bangui, against the dismissal of the President of the National Assembly, Karim Meka Sesqua. The Parliament's vote is scheduled for Friday, and the dismissal would need 93 votes in order to be passed. Mika Suissa is accused of the alleged breach of responsibility, and his political opponents say that there are doubts about his finances. Hundreds of people have been flocking to the port of China's Zhanghui City to try out the world's longest sea bridge. Open to the public on Tuesday, the bridge connects the mainland with Hong Kong and Macau. The first bus left on Wednesday morning from the Chinese end, while just 40 minutes later, the first private car also arrived from Hong Kong. The 55-kilometer-long bridge has facial recognition systems set up at both ends to speed up border crossings. In Syria, the first Damascus Cultural and Art Festival kicked off on Monday at the Damascus Opera House. The event was the first of its kind since relative calm returned to Syria following the years-long war. On display at the Opera House are cultural relics that have survived the conflicts, as well as books, paintings, and calligraphy. The week-long event will also feature Arabic and Syrian art and folk performances.
Since the outbreak of the Syrian crisis, we've been encouraging ourselves through art. We also encourage our kids to express their feelings and emotions through means like theater, painting, music, and making crafts. That's also what the Cultural Festival wants to present.
We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website, telusyourtv.net/English. And for our viewers in Africa, remember, we are on Starsat 461 in South Africa and 539 in Nigeria. But everyone can follow us on social media because we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telus Your English, I'm Suni Gray. Thank you so much for watching.